Hello, friends. Welcome. I'm Ayya Soma, and we can start this morning by paying homage to our original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, the reason why we're gathered here today. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Bhutam dhammam sangham namassami. Good to see all of you friends. Hello to Demsin, John, Matthias, Malika, who are checking in, and welcome also to everyone else who hasn't said hello yet, but I can see as a little number on the screen. So I haven't seen many of you, either in person or online for a while now. Essentially, since my father passed away in November, I've been taking care of my mom pretty much full time with no break. Yeah, it's been a very interesting, actually, past couple of years, because also before the passing away of my father, I was taking care of my parents. That's why I was leaving for Italy, my home country, very often. So perhaps some of you have seen only pictures. I did the pictures as usual, as we do these days. We only post, right? We only publish like the happy times. We only publish all the sort of pretty pictures of just pure joy, pure bliss. And we're a little less keen, or there's less way to share instead the struggles, to share instead the difficulties that we can encounter, whether we're in robes or whether we're not in robes. So yeah, it's been a very interesting couple of years, which have created some great opportunities for really reflecting on the Dhamma, reflecting on the teachings of the Buddha, cultivating the heart, and also understanding even more Anatta, understanding even more the impersonality of so many things. It's interesting because, as some of you know, I co-founded the monastery Empty Cloud with Bhante Sudaso. And it's very interesting because at the very beginning of the monastery, everybody was aware of that. So there was somewhat of a kind of like acknowledgement of who Ayya Soma was. Everybody kind of knew me. But as in the past couple of years, I had to leave a lot, or I had to, even when I was present, like in the past couple of months, I was basically present in the monastery, but I was present with my mom. So I wasn't really present in the day-to-day of the monastery that much. And so all of a sudden, actually not all of a sudden, but slowly but surely, new people started appearing in the monastery, and I wasn't familiar with them. They weren't familiar who I was. So it was a very interesting process, of not actually having a personal connection with the place, and people not having a personal connection with me. And at the same time, I was taking care of my mom, who is elderly and has been struggling a lot. And at a certain point, it was actually, there was a time when I was not even sleeping. So it was literally 24/7. And she couldn't remember my name. She sometimes would actually even get confused and didn't recognize me at all. So there was a lot of work that was being done. There was a lot of caregiving, and there was zero acknowledgement actually of the work that had been done, of actually even myself, of of the person, you know, my mom not recognizing me at all. And sometimes actually not even being grateful or not being even like neutral. So it was sometimes actually very difficult to even bear these emotions of putting so much care, so much love into something, and so many different actions, and having sometimes the opposite feedback that we would expect. So interesting, because it's these situations, these opportunities that we have to really look at the mind of whenever we are making good deeds, right? Making good actions. And sometimes, even if we don't like to admit it, you know, there's like that underlying tendency of actually, you know, wanting for that goodness to be acknowledged in the world, wanting, you know, to have a little bit of praise, you know, have a little bit of honor, have a little bit of gain of some sort. And then when this little praise and little honor, little gain completely disappear, it can be a little bit of a sting, right? Like, put so much effort, you know, in doing all this work for this person, all these good deeds for this person, and well, it's as if like I haven't done them, or I put so much effort into building this monastery, but nobody really cares about me, right? And it's such a blessing to have the teachings of the Buddha to really invite us to see, why is it that we do what we do? And it's definitely not for praise, not for honor, not for gain. These are actually obstacles, the Buddha says. I think this week, the other venerables, or the past weeks, the venerables have been talking a lot about praise, honor, and gain, right? So those are the obstacles. They're vile, bitter, obstructive for the attainment of awakening. So what is it that we do? Why do we do what is good? Well, we do what is good because we know that is good, and that what is good brings to good results, right? It's actually, if we remove ourselves from the picture, right? It's just incredibly beautiful how, for example, Empty Cloud Monastery can exist right now. You know, Ayya Soma right now is in Italy. I'm in Rome. And Empty Cloud Monastery does not need me. It's incredible. Can keep on running. People can keep on going there, keep on having teachings from monastics, keep on cultivating the heart, keep on cultivating wholesome qualities. It would be actually quite a disaster if, like, Empty Cloud Monastery depended on Ayya Soma, because Ayya Soma is extremely impermanent. Ayya Soma's also conditions in life are extremely impermanent, right? One day her parents are completely fine, then the next day one of the parents dies, another parent gets really ill, right? So very impermanent, not someone to rely upon. And yeah, isn't it incredible that a place can exist like that? It's beautiful. And also, it's incredible, right? That whenever we do something wholesome for another person, we're cultivating the heart. We're cultivating in wholesome qualities, ourselves and the other person as well with us. The other person can have a bit of release from suffering. And we can also have a bit of release from suffering if we allow it to be that way. It's only a problem when we actually get into the picture. So I found it actually that my mom, forgetting entirely who I was, it was also actually quite hilarious how she would remember pretty much everyone, even if she had met them like the day before. Because she was at the monastery at Empty Cloud for 4 months, and she was like, oh yes, I remember this person, I remember her mother, etc., and the sisters, but she didn't remember her own daughter. It was really really interesting, right? I was the only person that she forgot, even though she saw me on a regular basis. Maybe it's the outfit. The outfit might have created a bit of a memory glitch. But it was such a really precious teaching that she gave me, a really precious sort of opportunity to really, if not perfect, at least really, really work on doing good just for the sake of doing good. Doing good because we understand really the benefits, really the good, the goodness in and of itself of a good action, right? Not because we want to get anything out of it, but because we understand that whenever we act skillfully, it's, as the Buddha says, the most beautiful ornament that we could give to the mind, right? Beautiful ornament that we could give to the heart. There's nothing that matches it. Yeah, no beautiful dress, no beautiful flower garland, no beautiful anything, makeup, jewelry, nothing better than actually this beautiful ornament that we can dress the mind with, dress the heart with. And so when we start focusing more on the Kamma, removing us from the picture, then we can actually be a little bit more skillful in what we do, a little bit more skillful in really refining the actions through body, speech, and mind. Understanding that by cause and effect, right, there will be good results from this, good results. And of course, whenever we're talking about caregiving, so whenever we are, I have to say this has been a really wonderful opportunity. I'm talking about it in the past, but it's not in the past. It's actually still my present. I'm just going to be taking a little bit of a break, in a way, from the full-time aspect of it, because I will be traveling here in Italy for a couple of months, and my brother will be stepping in. And then I will have to return back to it, right? So this break is not really a break, because I will actually be sharing the Dhamma and traveling a lot here in Italy in order to establish a new monastery. But that's going to talk about it in a little bit later, because it is related actually to what we're talking this morning. But yeah, it's been really, especially the past 4 months, very, very intense, and a great opportunity to really actually understand like the life and the experience of so many people these days who are actually going through the same experience, the same process of having a family member that falls very ill, perhaps starts having cognitive difficulties, bodily difficulties, and one starts taking care of them, and the inadequacy of the resources that we have, both in society, and both in also in our families, and both in even in our heart. It can be really, really challenging, right? And also how we take everything personally. I have to say, it's when these dramatic situations happen in life, we really have the tendency to, each one of us, to just go like, why me? Why me? Why us? Why this family? Why that? And to a certain degree, it's no different than what we see in Kisa Gotami, right? The story of Kisa Gotami, when her child dies, and she's reputed to have gone to the Buddha and begged him to resurrect her child, and the Buddha was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. Just find a mustard seed from a family that has not gone through this old age, sickness and death, right? Find me a family that has not experienced death, right? And she's like, okay. Definitely mustard seeds are very common. I can find those. And so she goes from door to door, and she finds every family that had experienced death. So she could find plenty of mustard seeds, but no family that with a mustard seed that hadn't experienced death. Yeah, so it's the same actually with old age and sickness, right? So we're all like bound to experience this in both ourselves and our loved ones and our dear ones and our families. But still, when it happens, there's that sense of like, oh, why me? Oh, this is horrible. Why is this happening? And so the mind starts kind of going a little bit crazy. And of course, in situations where we're talking about, like extreme diseases, this very heart diseases like dementia or Alzheimer's or any cognitive problematic, then it becomes an extra sort of level of difficulty, both for ourselves and for the person, the loved one that is going through this dukkha. And everything can seem so specific to the situation. And it was very interesting. At some point, I joined this caregiving group that has members throughout the world that are somewhat, that created this forum so that they can advise each other with brainstorming, dealing with different situations. And it was just really beautiful. I never really participated, I never wrote anything, but actually I read a lot of interactions between the members. And it was just such a beautiful thing to see. Beautiful to see how so many people were taking refuge in this group that were going through this, similar turmoils, and how the reason why they were taking refuge, and myself included actually, was because there was that shared commonality of dukkha, of First Noble Truth expressing itself in a sort of very similar way, and where both the person, the loved one that was going through the disease, was actually behaving in very similar ways or saying very similar things, no matter if the person was, in Italy or in South Africa or in Bangladesh or in India or in the United States or in Brazil, right? Maybe the language changed. For example, it's very interesting that if a person that is experiencing cognitive difficulties starts getting into a lot of distress, they'll start saying that they want to go home, even though perhaps they are at home, they're in their own home. So it can seem a little bit bizarre, you're like, wait, this person is really crazy. Why are they saying that they want to go home, right? And actually what it means when one says they want to go home is that they want to go back to a time and place when they felt safe, right? So usually it was their place, when they had both mother and father, if they're elderly, so maybe their town of origin, but it's really like a moment that is in the heart of when things were okay, when one didn't have to be agitated or struggle, right? And what was very interesting is that every person would say that. Isn't it amazing? Like every single person is just in a different language. It's not that everybody would say it in English, not everybody would say it in Italian, not everybody would say it in Hindi, but everybody would say the exact same thing, the content, the words, I want to go home, but in different languages. Beautiful. Wow. Remarkable. And on the flip side, also the people taking care of the loved one with cognitive difficulties would go through similar emotions. And so I started seeing that the emotions that I was experiencing, and also the difficulties perhaps that I was having with my siblings, dealing with the situation, was exactly the same, of like different families in, you know, Ohio, or once again Brazil, or you know, India or whatnot, right? So it didn't matter. It didn't matter the specifics of it. What mattered is that actually that condition, you know, it's like very similar to the teachings of the Buddha, right? That we can see that first noble truth, you know, it's just applicable to each one of us. And so it's interesting when we acknowledge the impersonality of our situation, we acknowledge the commonality that we have with others going through the same situation, how it becomes a little bit easier to bear. Becomes a little less about me, poor, this is atrocious, everything is awful, and everybody's having a great time. Look at that Instagram reel, right? Oh, if only I were a monastic, right? If we're lay people, like, oh, I could just like leave everything behind and not look at it. Well, it doesn't work that way either, actually, right? As a matter of fact, I feel like in my family, I'm the one who has been taking more of this sort of situation on, 100% of it, right? So it doesn't really, that's not what monastic life is about. It's not about pretending that problems don't exist, but actually really making the effort of really understanding what is dukkha, what is the cause of dukkha, and how to reach the end of dukkha and practice the way out of dukkha, right? So we really do this at its core. That's our motivation. But every single Buddhist, whether one is a monastic or not, should have this very clear as an objective of the heart and of the mind. And that is where we get our strength. At least this is where I got my strength in even not sleeping, even not, you know, powering through. To really understand that all of these were, as Venerable Kumbhali says, we don't practice despite the obstacles, but the obstacles are the path, right? So when we are actually experiencing these obstacles in life, that's when we can really understand where we're at with our practice, what we need to develop, what is it in the heart here that, you know, is what are we clinging to? And also really acknowledge what the Buddha tells us, that we have, you know, these seeds in the heart. We have these seeds, for example, of metta. We have these seeds of karuna. We have these seeds of upekkha. We have these seeds of mudita. So how can we actually nourish these seeds? How can we develop them? How can we really flourish them, turn them into beautiful, beautiful plants, beautiful adornments that make us feel happy and also make others, especially when we're caregiving, make also others around us happy. So with my mom, it was very, you know, very obvious. She's just like such a mirror with, you know, whatever is happening in my heart, then she also is very responsive to it. And I was like, oh wow, it's really great. Like right now I can see that my heart is full of metta, and she's very calm and peaceful and responding really well with that. And right now, you know, I'm having a little bit of aversion. I wished, you know, I was just doing my intensive meditation retreat instead of doing this other type of intensive vipassana. But it was a little bit less peaceful, you know. Maybe she was asking me the same question 30 times, right? And I was a little bit like having a bit of aversion, vibhava, tanha, and her then also starting to have vibhava tanha. So you can see how we're mirroring these qualities of the heart outside of ourselves, and then correct them. How beautiful! We're like, oh, like a mirror. We see ourselves in the mirror. We're like, oh, there's a stain there. Let me remove it. Or, oh, that looks good. Yeah, let me keep nourishing it, right? And so this, you know, the impersonality of all of this is the reason why actually the teachings of the Buddha work, right? It's just whenever we put these conditions, then we have this result. And whenever these conditions aren't in place, we can't have this result. So everything that happens in our life, it's always an opportunity for cultivation. We don't need to wait to go on a intensive meditation retreat. As a matter of fact, I did not have my winter intensive meditation retreat, but or at least definitely not the sort of noble silent retreat. It's a different type of retreat. Still very much, actually, a lot of wisdom that has been developed. Oh, not too much samadhi, I should say, but definitely a lot of wisdom, right? Because when we open to seeing things the way they are, open to see the heart, open to see, everything, then of course wisdom increases. And so yes, these are great opportunities for practice. But I also wanted to mention that another reflection that came to mind during these times was that it is really hard. It is really, really crazy hard to do this alone. To take care of a loved one in such an intensive way, to provide everything that they need, and at the same time to keep one's mindfulness, to keep the sense doors guarded when not sleeping, for example. Yes, we can take all of this as an opportunity to better ourselves, absolutely. But it's important to acknowledge that actually it is really difficult, and it is the cause of it's important, I guess, to acknowledge that what we're living is to a certain degree unprecedented. And it's unprecedented because now the individuals are giving the burden of all of these big problems. I feel like actually there's so many. I've come to the realization that there's so many people that are going through precisely what I am going through, and what I've been going through in particular in the past months. And everybody's very silent about it, right? There's almost a little bit of shame, and there's an expectation that the individuals or that the family takes care of all of this. But it's like really unprecedented in history. I'm thinking about my grandparents here in Italy. Actually, it was not that case, and they didn't even have, and they had even worse sort of physical conditions than my parents. But what was not present in their reality, which is instead present in my experience, in my reality, is that they didn't have a nuclear family. Right now, my family is really a nuclear family, right? A family of birth. It's just, my parents, now only my mom, and my two brothers. That's it. Been completely removed throughout my life, not through monastic life, but actually since I was a little girl. Once my grandparents died, completely removed from the sort of family at large, and I never grew up in a place, a place that you can say where my ancestors were, right? But my parents left their hometown. And this is like the story of so many these days. In Italy, I'm a little bit, my family was a bit of a pioneer, so some people are a little bit starting now. But in the United States, it's been going on now for quite a long time. And in Asia, it's starting to happen as well. So we are talking about this nuclear family where all our resources, right, are just based on this single unit that is completely disconnected from society at large, from a sort of collective type of support, which is instead what my grandparents had in their villages of birth. Right? They never experienced once loneliness. Never. And not because we were living there, their immediate family, but because actually they had always been in that place. there was always someone that was helping with one thing or the other. And they were not, they were not like sort of infantilized, but they were actually revered as elders of their community. And so I feel like we're getting things very wrong and very dangerously wrong these days, right? When we live in such an individualistic society where we're all dispersed from the lands of our ancestors, and we become part of this like global nothingness. And like where the elders that are supposed to be, traditionally they were the depositaries of Bahu, Satchancha, and Sipancha, right? That in the Mangala Sutta, the Buddha says it's the highest blessings, like a lot of truths and a lot of skill sets, right? We see it also in monastic life, right? The ajahns, the senior ajahns, Wangpo, the older you are, the better. There's so much wisdom there to share with everyone else who is junior, right? So what is going wrong with the lay folks? Why is it that instead the elderly aren't actually looked up to anymore? Becoming a little bit more the sort of non-productive, broken people of society that then, in the sort of best case scenario, if they have a sort of wealthy kind of means, then maybe we can find them a sort of nursing home, if we can even find that sort of nursing home, right? Or maybe they just become the sole responsibility of the, one or two people in the family who can take care of that burden, right? So it's just really, really off. Really, really dangerous, unprecedented once again in society. This is a really dangerous experiment that we're doing. I feel like the nuclear family is already like in the term. It's like a really nuclear bomb. Like already it's lots of toxic waste there. And what has been really apparent to me is also the difference of taking care of my mom alone here in Italy, or instead at the monastery, where instead there's not a nuclear family, but there is the community at large. There's the community, there's the Sangha, all my siblings in the Dhamma of my monastic brothers and sisters, right? As well as all my non-monastic siblings, all my sisters and brothers, right? That are lay people that come to the monastery and showed so much kindness to myself and my mom. So it's been significantly easier. And then when I was in Italy, same thing. Whenever I'm with, the Buddhist community here as an extension, even easier, because then my mom has an easier time to communicate with them. So yeah, people sometimes these days are like, oh, Ayya Soma, what's going on? Why are you starting a monastery in Italy? Wow, that's crazy. I was like, yeah, it is crazy. It's pretty crazy, right? And it's not that I actually didn't have anything to do, but actually what really came to mind, like life gives you a lot of lemons, and what do? You either like just cry all the tears and feel sorry for yourself, or you make lemonade. And so this is a little bit what this monastery project has come into being, was the realization that actually, what is a monastery? It is a place where monastics are, but it's also a place where community forms. It's a place where we can all actually start having the right precise roles that we are supposed to have, where we can actually really support each other, anukampa, like trembling together, right? And then when we are lifting up, something, when we're carrying something together, it's like a trunk of a tree. If you're like trying to lift it all by yourself, gonna like break your back. But if it's like 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, you can't even feel it, right? It's just like a little stick. And so that's what it is. Well, that's what the Sangha is, The monastic Sangha, obviously, that is where everything revolves around, where we create these conditions of mutual support. Mutual support that is not based on an economical exchange of like, okay, I give you this, and then you work from this time to this time, but rather it's, we do this because it's good. It's good. We do it because we understand. Yeah, like the Buddha says, do not be afraid of merit. Merit is a synonym of happiness. So everything is an opportunity for merit. It's an opportunity for happiness. And we can all support each other in one way or the other. And at the same time, what a beautiful, beautiful thing. For years now that I've been going to Italy, people have been telling me, I've met so many women that have been coming up to me and asking, oh, wow, you're the first bhikkhuni that I meet, first renunciant. Have been always wanting to ordain, but they told me it was not possible. Or they told me that, it was better to keep practicing as a lay person, or maybe with these other sets of precepts and these other conditions. And I was like, wow, it's really incredible. The amount of people in Italy that, probably because of the monastic past of the country, still nourish this, this vocation, and that in the Dhamma takes like its sort of beautiful form. And I was like, wow, how about, well, there are all these conditions here in place. How about we actually try to make something that is beautiful, right? Something that is of benefit for all sentient beings, not just for myself, not just for my mom, not just for one single person, but rather, not feeling sorry for myself, not feeling sorry for others, but instead going, how can we actually create more places where we can really support each other on the path and share the Dhamma. And so this is why you're seeing perhaps Ayya Soma. You will see her probably more traveling around in the next couple of months here in Italy. Is that we found, this has been all like very serendipity, story. After my dad passed away in October, I went to his town of birth, and I hadn't been there in 30 years or so. And it was so interesting to go back to a place where I had actual ancestry, where like my last name, for example, of birth is everywhere. I've never been in a place where that name was everywhere or anywhere really. Very interesting. So many different things that made me really reflect on this disconnection that has been, on this non-choice of traditions that was given to me. And so we found this beautiful forest available for sale at a reasonable price. With a big building, and the folks there, all these conditions started happening. I feel like when you protect the Dhamma protects you. So like, it's actually really remarkable how, an architect showed up, and then an archaeologist showed up, and an engineer showed up, and like so many different people bringing so much beautiful energy, and no self-interest, but actually just beautiful wanting to care for one another, someone to just help out and get monastics to live there, and at the same time also create different community opportunities, like a sustainable farm, and projects for kids, and also involving the elderly to teach about the forest, the native species there, the territory. So I was like, okay, well, I think that the Devas are bringing this opportunity for the benefit of all sentient beings, and I feel like I should power through, like really develop these indriyas into balas and try and help this out. So actually the project is called emptyclouditalia.org, and where you can read about it. I'm going to post it right here. And yeah, this is a little bit the aspiration. We have up until the end of April to raise all of the funds. So we'll see if there's enough energy and enough enthusiasm. But that's why you will see me traveling a little bit more. And then I will be back at Empty Cloud Monastery this Vasa, hopefully. And hopefully with a better situation where actually I can be present, not only physically, but also present without attachment. Yeah, in the community as well. All right, so at this point we can see if there's any comments and questions for all the friends. Good to see so many people. And Maria says, it has been 3 years for me, a very challenging lesson to get through on one's own. Yeah, so many people, I'm realizing, so many, where we're all like in the same boat. And Sun says, dear Ayya, how do we shift our focus, especially when one is very attached to praise and gain? How can one, especially in lay life, avoid this being the reason behind performing wholesome actions? Well, first and foremost, we have to be very frank with ourselves. Yeah, not pretend that we are these holy beings, because we would be fully enlightened, right? So there is a path towards enlightenment that the Buddha has shown us. And this path towards enlightenment really requires us to be honest with ourselves, be honest with what is happening in the heart, and be, to a certain extent, okay with having, like, not being too judgmental with, not being okay, but not being too judgmental when we have that sense of like greed or that sense of hatred or that sense of delusion, not wanting to look at something and wanting praise and wanting to be acknowledged in one shape or form, right? Obviously, our good tendencies are still like tainted by our ego, by our sense of self. And so when we pretend that it's not there, we tend to actually spiritually bypass ourselves. And we're like, okay, well, if I pretend that I don't care to be acknowledged, then, I will stop caring to be acknowledged. Well, actually, in that way, we are cultivating delusion about our greed, about our sense of self, right? About our egocentricity, self-centeredness. And we are doing the opposite of eliminating it. We're actually fueling it. Instead, if we look at it, we acknowledge it, and we're like, okay, well, this obviously is the result of past actions. This is just a result. Obviously, I'm an unenlightened being. I spent countless lifetimes cultivating the conditions for self-centeredness and the, sort of the deliciousness of praise, honor, and gain, right? Of course, there is this vipaka, there is this result. This result is not me, it doesn't define me. It's not who I am. So instead of obsessing about the result, hating the result, desiring, something else, or ignoring the result, instead we focus on planting something else, planting the seeds. So we focus on doing good. We focus on actually, just really perhaps also acknowledging the drawbacks of things, right? The unpleasant sensation that comes when we're not acknowledged, the unpleasant sensation when nobody cares, when we're not, we're like, why would I actually do that to myself? Instead, if we focus on the pleasant sensation that actually the good action produces in the heart and mind, independently from the acknowledgement that happens in the outside world, but actually doing good or letting go of the aversion of doing something. When we're really successful, there's like, nice sukha vedana that is actually completely blameless because it's a letting go of suffering. Then we can like, oh, this is good. Oh, this is great. This is lovely. This is blameless. This is much more reliable, right? I can let go all the time. So then there is that wisdom of understanding that that is actually true happiness, and instead of constantly seeking approval from the outside world, or that's like a little bit poisonous and really not pleasant. And actually, even when it's pleasant, even when we get the gratification of getting what we want, we still have gone through so much dukkha of like chasing it. So it's really not good bang for our bucks, as they say in the UK. So I hope that helps. And Karuna says, oh, you're so sweet. Out of shyness, I'm not going to highlight your comment, Karuna, but you're very kind and sweet. And Keith says, loving and caring for someone with dementia is so hard. I've experienced it with my own dear grandmother for years now, sending deep compassion to all caregivers. Thank you for sharing. Satu, thank you for sharing as well. Once again, we're so many. This is what I've realized. It's actually incredible how many people are going through this. It's also very interesting because in my research of dementia and Alzheimer's, I have found that the first cases of this disease, in particular Alzheimer's, was like at the beginning of last century, and it was considered to be the disease of the bourgeoisie, so the upper middle class disease, right? So it's really, really interesting because, in Central Europe and Northern Europe, particularly the Anglo-Saxon countries, they've had, they're a little bit ahead of us in the game. And so that's when they've experienced this wealth of the society. And this wealth actually also creates all of this sort of shift of morality, shift of way through which we organize our life, our society, and so much illness, mental illness, that is crazy. Which, of course, I'm not saying that all dementia or all of this is created. There's only one reason for it, but it is quite remarkable how in this day and age of extreme wealth, we have soaring numbers. It's apparently, they say that it's just keeping on increasing. And Keith says, more third spaces are so needed by society, especially Dharma-filled ones. Yes, exactly. This has been my realization. We really need to create more Dharma places for each one of, for everyone. Like, it's so important to create community. It's so important to go against this stream of individualism, individual practice. Oh, and Edward says, I'm also taking care of my 89-year-old mom. I'm grateful my wife is in charge because many times it's hard to navigate social services systems here in New York City. Oh, sending you so much love, Edward. And it is such also very complicated system, I also realized. Really, really crazy world that we have fabricated. And Jun, Sadhu Anuvadana. Jun, thanks for your kind message. And thank you, Mana, also for your really kind kind message. Not highlighting all of your messages because you're all like way too kind and praising. So very sweet, but I appreciate your good thoughts, and I'm inspired by all of you as well. All right, so I think that's all for this morning, and thank you so much for your good practice in the world, and for just really being dedicated to the teachings of the Buddha that really bring freedom from suffering. Now, one thing that I've learned from this experience is that if I didn't have the Dhamma, I would have not known how to even survive 1 second. I would have been so crazy. So yeah, the teachings of the Buddha are just a sweet nectar that keeps us all energized and ready to defeat Mara and his army of individualistic. Okay, so we can end this morning with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you be well, happy, and peaceful, and may all good things come to you.